United Nations, etc., etc. There'd be people out on the streets demonstrating. If in fact Israel is drawn into a war with Iran, you can almost guarantee that that will occur. Hermes, followed by Jerry.
Good evening, everyone. This is so sad that we're going into another world war. And I don't mean just about the United States. I mean about everything, right? Russia, what have you. And I wanted to give an idea, a proposal, what could potentially eliminate wars. I suggest that, number one, we get rid of the current religions, and maybe we start looking at the Hermetic studies, right? It's all about peace and love and science. And then, of course, the other one would be that, we wake up, we admit, or our governments admit that we're not the only ones in this universe, and we start communicating with our neighbors. And maybe they can teach us a lot. Thank you for the mic, Gary.
Well, it's very nice fantasy. But the great religions of the world are seated in our psyche, and it's not the religion; it's the interpretation of the religion. And I know Scott can speak as a theologian about this with a lot greater authority than me. But it's how one interprets the religion. That's why, for example, when we talk about the aggressiveness among some Muslims, including the Islamic regime of Iran, if you use the proper semantics to describe, a lot of people can see a differentiation between Islamists and Muslims, even though they are all Muslims. Most of the Muslim people I know are far from radicalized and have the same interests and desires. Culturally, there are differences. Some of the cultural things that they adhere to are different from what I adhere to. But that doesn't mean that they are basically different from me or you. So I don't know whether condemning religions per se really is an approach it seems like you're worried about, what if American Navy really get attacked? I don't think so. They know they're not opposing full-scale war with the United States. And one thing was, my Iranian friends are really asking American to attack. They welcome American attack because they seems like most of the people over there want this regime change helped by international force. I'm familiar with this. I'm from China, and I remember that Tiananmen Square. That 89 Tiananmen Square events. Yeah, we're all hoping international power can get involved in helping the regime change. But I think American might not play very cautiously. And another thing, the Hormuz Strait has been sealed by Iran. That's not right? This international water. And American taking this job over there is good. And another thing is, Trump maybe wanted to stop all this oil flowing to China as well. And that's another thing that's getting talked about. About these issues, then it would have to be covered by the news media, and then people would be aware of it. But the coverage of these actual genocides, it's happening in a vacuum. And I can just go on and on about all the other areas of the world where the United Nations has failed. The border war between Thailand and Cambodia. Where's the United Nations been on that? Yeah, they don't even really mention that. They don't have a Security Council to talk about these things. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And I get the agenda. I don't cover it any longer, but I still get the agendas emailed to me. I haven't seen it on the agenda, so they're not even giving it lip service. And people are dying.
People are dying!
To his credit, the president has tried to create a ceasefire. He's claimed victory in that. In order to bury them, which most people cannot afford. This is not something that the United Nations should be looking the other way on. Every single country, especially every single permanent member of the Security Council, should be flexing their muscles on this. Why is it just the United States that's trying to bring an end to this carnage in Iran? Why is it just the United States? And there may have been certain business interests to motivate it. I don't know. I don't really care. Why is it only the United States that intervened in the Cambodian-Thailand border war? Why is nobody interfering in what's going on in Burma and Sudan? I don't know, Jerry, but I would say one thing's for certain: the United Nations is failing in its mission.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yes. Yeah, this is
Interest in this. It's academic to those of us in the United States, pretty much, but not to the people there. But the other nations of the world ought to be joining the United States. And the leader of all this shouldn't have to be the President of the United States. It should be the United Nations. And I think part of the reason the United Nations won't get involved in it is because the subtext of Israel, oh my God, you can't do anything that might be in support of Israel. Can't do that. So they don't get involved. Iran followed by Dave. Iran, are you with us, sir? Sometimes he has trouble grabbing microphone. Would have liked to have heard from another Iranian on this. I think we may have one other in this on the stage too, so I hope we get to him. Okay, we'll move on to Dave, followed by Brian.
Gary, your observation is right. I think on May 10, 2024, when 143 nations voted against Israel and support Palestine, that is the beginning of the collapse of the international norm.
Yeah, they didn't support Palestine because there is no Palestine. They supported God. They supported Hamas.
Correct.
Let's be clear on it. They supported a terrorist organization. I'm not arguing that there ought to be or not ought to be a Palestinian state, but there is no Palestine. And so I'm not saying the Palestinian people don't exist. I'm not saying that Gaza doesn't exist. I'm not saying the West Bank doesn't exist. I'm saying there is no Palestinian state. In fact, I'm supporting them, I guess, by saying this. There ought to be a Palestinian state, maybe that's my subtext here. But let's be clear on the semantics here, Dave. They supported a terrorist organization.
Correct. So May 10, 2024, when there was still very questionable UNRWA involvement with Hamas, and then 143 nation blind, So the international norm for me was already gone by then, 2024. And a few weeks ago, Marco Rubio just said UNRWA would not be involved in future any aid delivery to Gaza. So because of all the evidence. So and I think prior speaking religion, the whole thing we are here today, everything is very dangerous. It's all religion. So any discussion try to avoid involving religion is not seeing the picture. No Jews, no news is religion. No, another prior speaker tried to talk about Tiananmen Square. How many people die at Tiananmen Square? Chinese killing Chinese? I don't know, not more than 2,000. But what we see in Iran, IRGC killing another similar kind, not Jews. For Jews, they are indoctrinated to kill Jews from very young. But for a Muslim killing another Muslim or somebody look like him, according to what I learned from Iranian room, it takes a lot of intervention to make this happen, right? So 30,000 or could be more, but everything is religion. So the question now is, well, United States intervened, right? During the Iran-Israel 12-day war, we have some SMS sent by U.S. ambassador to Israel, to Trump, and let him understand it's you have to think carefully. Everything is on your shoulder. Likewise, for people who understand religion, this is a critical moment. You can interpret through the religion, or you can just totally ignore. But if you interpret through the religion, because the IRGC are religious, they also follow everything clockwise like religion. So if you don't understand this, then you violate the fundamental Sun Tzu art of war. You got to understand how your enemy think, and you anticipate what your enemy is going to do next. Then you will win every single 100 battle. This is what the West need to understand. If your enemy is doing exactly based on religion, you have to start thinking like them. So any discussion on stage ignoring religion, ignoring the fact that Trump administration are very strong Christian, then you will not see the whole picture. For me, everything is working clockwise right now. Yes.
Trump's a strong Christian, my ass. That man is not a very strong Christian. Or else he would run around on his wife like fives.
Marshall, go back to King Vic. Okay? Anytime you
I don't
criticize,
need to go back to King David. All I need to do
then
is
you are walking two eye closed, Marshall.
the Republican Party, or that you shouldn't cheat on your wife. Period.
You're walking on two eye closed because King David. Okay. Anytime you
I don't need
criticize
to go back to King.
God, repent and
You
give him
cannot
another chance.
be comparing Donald Trump to King David from the Bible. That is outlandish.
That is your view, Marshall. That's
No,
why you don't see the whole picture.
Trump is not ordained by God, and to say so is
Whatever you say,
very harmful.
you are not seeing the whole picture. There are a lot of things that you have.
I just don't agree with your addressing of him as some
It's
sort of
fine.
Christian. He's not.
That's why we have free speech. You have your view.
People like crap. You're not a good Christian, right? Like he's as Christian.
What I say, Trump administration have 15 Christian in their administration. They all help each other to figure out the right thing to do. It's not just Trump alone. It's the entire team. They are coordinated and they understand their responsibility. That's why I say Trump administration, not one, 15 mutually checking each other's decision. What is the right thing to do, Trump? Yeah, Marshall. That is a big difference. And Christian understand the foundation, what God bless America means. That's a big difference.
Biden was a pious Catholic. Come on. This idea that Trump is somehow uniquely blessed by God, the Middle Ages already tried this, Dave. They want their theology and government back. They tried this with the Catholic Church, intertwining faith and government, and it doesn't work. It deepens the government, and it illegitimizes the faith. This idea that we should combine those two is nuts. We have 1,000 years of European history to tell us that's the exact wrong thing to do.
Well, Masha, real proof of Christian is fruit. That means Trump is speaking all the truth. That truth at Davos is waking up
In your opinion. So,
Yes,
so in your opinion, let me codify what you just said. He's a good Christian because you agree with his approach and he's speaking the truth. Biden, Obama were bad Christians because Well, you disagreed with their positions on things, and if they've been good Christians, they would have taken the same position that Trump does. That's your argument, right?
It depends how you measure good Christian, right?
Well, you're the one who's doing the measuring here, not me.
I'm going to explain to you.
I don't know. I find it farcical that we're comparing Donald Trump and other good Christians. Donald Trump's a bully who cheated on his wife, who cheated on every single wife he ever had, cheated on his wife with a porn star. That man is not a good example of a Christian.
So as King David, Marshall, so as King David.
King David, and you were trying to wed the Old Testament King David story to Donald Trump is absolutely and completely heretical. It's wrong.
Again, if you ignore King David, we have no discussion, right?
I don't think King David is a good idea. You're trying to tie the Trump administration to
When Charlie Kirk was asked at the campus, and he immediately said, "We all full of sin." Okay, when Charlie Kirk was attacked, he immediately said, "We are full of sin," just as King David, just as Trump.
He's not King David. Stop trying to heretically combine the two.
I think
They're not the same.
when Charlie Kirk said, "We are full of sin,"
I'm not talking about Charlie Kirk. I'm talking about
King David has
the
sinned.
Trump
Charlie
administration
Kirk has sinned.
trying to align them
It
with
doesn't matter what
plan.
king, Marshall. Your king has a different.
David is told the whole point in this discussion. David, what has to do this with the Iran situation? I don't understand. You keep saying King David, King David. Have you followed the history?
Let me explain
Have
to
you
you.
followed the Iran situation last 48
Yes,
years? Has nothing
yes.
to do with the religion.
And
what
let-
you're
let me-
talking about.
let's just know from the record.
It's like killing
King David wasn't a draft dodger, okay? He fought in the military, okay?
A few days ago, somebody on Jerusalem, a Messianic Jews, just said Iran must fall according to Bible. Period. That's why we are talking about religion.
All right, thank you for that, David. That's enough with the religious talk. By the way, just so you understand from the perspective of myself and perhaps other Jews in the audience here, Messianic Jew is a contradiction in terms. You're saying a Messianic Jew is a Jew who recognizes Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. Well, then he's not a Jew, he's a Christian. And I'm not saying this, people have the right to believe whatever they want to believe. The term Messianic Jew is absolutely a contradictory terminology. I know they package themselves that way in an attempt to recruit, to proselytize actual Jews to become Christians, and that's their right to do so. But Messianic Jew is a contradiction. You cannot be a Messianic Jew. The Jews are waiting for the Messiah, for the first coming. The Christians are waiting for the second coming. So the term is inappropriate in my opinion. Brian, followed by Farshad, and we are now into extra time. So no additional people onto the stage. Brian.
Hey, Gary. Yeah, what you said about the Messianic Jews makes sense. I was really quite surprised when I saw those stories about Iran. I mean, what about the drones? Sometimes things happen, the drones go off or they may claim you don't know who was
No. As far offshore as this occurred, this was deliberate. There's no question.
Okay, but the one about them trying to take over the oil tanker, that really surprised me. I mean, that was very provocative, and it leads me to wonder why they would do something like that. If you're a smaller person and you have to defend yourself possibly against a large person, you don't walk up and, you get a little leery when that person walks up and starts
was saying we can close off the Gulf of Hormuz if we want. I think that's I'm sorry, the Strait of Hormuz. Did I say the Gulf of Hormuz? The Strait. Yeah. So I think that answers your question. Now we have to give thanks to Marshall Crick.
I would have never known the difference. But yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder what they had up their sleeve. But if they, if they thought they were trying to show something, I mean, they failed miserably at it. So that wasn't good. And then you mentioned about Saudi Arabia that they first off their airline, and just the United States makes more sense than trying to goat us into some type of trap is what I was thinking. I was wondering what their motives was, if there's some kind of trap, because we've been reading the stories about how China is. I mean, I've read at least 2 stories about them, landing airplanes and such into Iran, and you just kind of wonder if they might be trying to start something, but it wouldn't really make sense when you have, talks, right around the corner where you might be able to make peace. Of course, on the other hand, they've always said that they didn't want to give up their nuclear program either. So it's definitely an interesting situation. Thanks.
Well, it's no different, I guess, than what the Russians are doing, and that is accelerating their attacks against Ukraine in advance of the negotiations in order to, I guess, when it's better money, because they run. Ukraine is ultimately impotent against these foreign attacks. The United States is not. They're making a calculated risk, as I said in the beginning, by sending a drone after the Atlantic aircraft carrier.
That's a good point, because when they tried to retaliate against Israel, most of the missiles that they fired were taken down. So you kind of wonder how effective Iran would be. You think that they would be trying to look for an off-ramp, to de-escalate this situation.
You would think, but this regime has not been particularly logical from day one. Thank you, Brian. We'll go to Prashad, followed by Barat. Barat's Friday. Go ahead, Prashad.
Yeah, thanks for the time, man. Back to the topic. Actually, going across the world is looking for the war. But that's like on the world, Iran. And Iran is just such a part. I they were hoping a major change. So faced with this process as an individual, keeping the thousands of people in different darkness. Has ended up to where or the point that some people actually, or let's say majority of people now are hoping and military support from America. There are of course some other people that are still believing that the process for like even if it's like costly, with like blood, like with the districts, it's still they are hoping not to end up the war, but majority of people now are disappointed from the process because of the way that the regime is behaving and they actually they believe that what is happening is not a war, it's like a military war. Thank you for Mariah, are you back? Yes, okay. and of course Israel. I didn't even get to Africa because my turn came up. All of this Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which I call the genocide.
what we're going to see here before we hit the play button?
Yeah, this video will actually zoom into the roof area of the building. You can see center screen. In doing so, the video will capture an individual on the corner of the roof.
Was this video captured by the person we're referring to as Prosecutor A's daughter?
No.
Okay, please press play.
I think he'd already be in place. You would think that. So there's somebody on the roof over there? Just saying. Just ran from over the finger. From over there, ran in. Now he's out there. Just saying.
Now, that roof that was recorded in that video, first, is there other surveillance of that person in a person in that location at that time running to that spot?
There is additional footage, yes.
Where does that come from?
That came from the Utah Valley University security cameras.
All right. Is there another individual that also recorded a person running after the shooting from the roof?
Not to my recollection, no.
Any video from someone? Do you recall a video from someone in the Hall of Flags who may have recorded someone running after the shooting?
Yes, there was an individual who recorded from the Hall of Flags. It's an interior video looking through the windows, but I believe an individual is visible on the rooftop also in that video.
Okay, thank you. As far as other witnesses, some of the other relevant witnesses in this case, who is Hunter Kozak?
My recollection is he was the individual who was asking the question to Mr. Kirk at the time that he was shot.
Okay. Would he be a witness in this case? Could he be a witness, I should ask?
Potentially, yes.
Where was he positioned in relation to Mr. Kirk?
I believe the way the stage was set up, he was approximately the same height level of Mr. Kirk, but he would have been directly in front of him, where they had the barrier set up separating the crowd from the stage area.
Okay. I would like to show you Exhibit 4. Now, Exhibit 4, this is a screen capture from a video. Do you recognize Exhibit 4?
I do, yes.
You remember the video from which this is taken?
Yeah, it was a cell phone video belonging to an attendee of the event.
And that attendee was not the prosecutor's child.
It was not the prosecutor's child, no.
Will you describe what the video shows?
If I recall, this is a graphic video that does actually show the time that Mr. Kirk is impacted by a projectile and the subsequent trauma and reaction of the crowd.
Okay. Does it show the position of the people to his right and to his left?
Mr. Kirk's right and left?
Yes.
In a limited manner, it does, yes.
Does it show the position, the video, we're speaking of the video, does the video show the position of the questioner, Mr. Kozak?
I don't recall if it pans all the way to the question asker or not, specifically, but there is potential that it does, yes.
I'd move the admission of Plaintiff's Exhibit 4.
No objection.
It is admitted into evidence.
Did you interview mothers with children that were at the event?
I believe there were some mothers who had children at the event who provided witness statements to the State Bureau, yes.
Okay. I'd like to show you Plaintiff's Exhibit number 5. Do you recognize Exhibit 5?
I do, yes.
And this, my understanding is this is also a screenshot from a video from Turning Point USA. Is that accurate?
Yes, this was a video taken by Turning Point USA.
Does this
You're talking
show
about the
the
video
questioner,
that
Mr. Hunter
was
Kozak
behind Charlie Kirk now? That's the camera.
Charlie Kirk.
It does. You can see him holding the microphone just above Mr. Kirk's head.
Okay. And the video, will you describe what the video shows?
From my recollection, this video also shows the point that Mr. Kirk is struck by a projectile, and it shows the reaction of the individual asking the question, along with the reaction of Mr. Kirk's security detail and those others in the crowd.
Okay. I also see another, I'll leave it at that. From what you have gathered in the investigation, were you able to determine the direction from which the bullet came?
Yes.
And in this Exhibit 5, where would that direction have been?
Essentially from straight in front of Mr. Kirk.
Okay. And which side of Mr. Kirk's body?
Why didn't they ask how he knows that?
It would have been his left.
The defense better challenge this.
Finally,
If they
exhibit
don't,
number 3.
the fix is in.
Did I move the admission of Exhibit number 5?
No objection.
It's admitted.
I have Exhibit number 3 up in front of you. Do you recognize that?
Yes, that's a university or a Utah Valley University video of the kind of the breezeway area that I previously described.
And Exhibit number 3 is a screenshot from that video. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And will you describe what plaintiff's exhibit, well, the video itself actually shows?
Yes. If we were to play this video, this shows also the time that Mr. Kirk was impacted by the projectile. And it shows the activity that occurs behind the stage area and the movement of people prior to, during, and then after the incident. On both sides of the breezeway where the barriers are, the crowd actually break through the barrier in an effort to escape the area.
Does this video show others that may have been exposed to risk if that bullet would have missed Mr. Kirk?
I believe so, yes. Crowd actually break through the barrier in an effort to escape the area.
When you responded on September 10th, did you know who Chad Grunander was?
I did not know.
Did you know anything about his daughter?
I did not.
Did you eventually learn that the prosecutor's daughter was on the scene?
I did.
When did you learn that?
I believe when I found out, it was when the motion had been filed for the conflict argument.
Okay, so prior to that, did the presence of that person, that individual, have any bearing at all in your investigation of the case?
No, I was not aware of her presence at the event.
You have read that adult child's affidavit in preparation for this hearing, right?
Correct, yes.
And was there anything in that affidavit that changed your view of the case or the investigation you should do?
There was not, no.
Was there anything new in the affidavit?
No.
You're here for her testimony today, correct?
Correct, I was.
Same questions. Anything new in that testimony?
No additional information.
Now, I want to ask you a little bit about the value of the witnesses as it relates to this case. Did the witnesses on scene identify the shooter?
They have one witness.
No, we did not have a witness that identified the shooter on scene.
What was was that the primary goal of your investigation, to identify the shooter?
It was, yes.
And I want to ask you about the existence of other evidence. You said you collected surveillance evidence from Utah Valley University. Is that right?
That's correct.
Did that give you some additional information on identifying the shooter?
I did, yes.
How about doorbell cameras in the areas around Utah Valley University?
The defense better.
Yes, we collected a large number of
Did I give you some additional information on it?
Doorbell camera footage from multiple residences in the area, not just in Orem, but also in St. George. And we also recovered video footage from multiple businesses in the area of the university campus in Orem, and also from businesses between Orem and St. George. So there's a large amount of video footage obtained.
And did those help you identify the shooter?
They did, yes.
Text messages, did you collect text messages from associates of Tyler Robinson?
We did, yes.
And did those have any evidentiary value?
They did, yes.
How so?
Some of the communications between Mr. Robinson and people that he knew indicated that he had been involved in the incident at Utah Valley University.
Okay, and you say that indicated he'd been involved. What do you mean by that?
There was, I don't recall specifically with text messages, but some of the social media chats, there were admissions that he had been involved in the incident as the shooter.
Okay. CSI evidence. Was CSI evidence crime scene investigation collected in this case?
It was, yes.
Was DNA evidence collected?
It was, yes.
Does that evidence help you identify the shooter?
It does, yeah. The evidence that was obtained did provide us with DNA evidence in relation to items used during the commission of the crime, and then they were compared to Mr. Robinson.
Okay, items used meaning what?
Specifically, a screwdriver that was recovered on the rooftop of one of the buildings, and a firearm that was recovered in a tree area on campus.
And what? Oh. You didn't do the DNA testing yourself, correct?
I did not know.
But you're aware there have been reports that have given evidence as to the identity of DNA on that rifle.
That's correct. Yes.
Was a search warrant on the defendant's house executed in this case?
It was, yes, down in St. George.
And was evidence obtained from
Those
his house?
were not
It
procured
was, yes.
from his
What kind
house.
of evidence?
Kind of putting me on the spot, but if I recall, there were some bullet casings that had some inscriptions on. There were some tools that were believed to have been used to make those inscriptions. There were targets, I believe, that had been used, and also targets that had been purchased recently or just prior to the event. There was ring doorbell camera footage obtained from other residences there. And then a number of electrical items, laptops, and such that were collected as part of the warrant.
You said inscriptions on some shell casings found in his apartment. What value do those have?
That was relevant because the shell casings recovered with the firearm also had inscriptions on them.
You said there was evidence. The DNA was evidence consistent, or DNA consistent with the defendant's DNA found on that rifle.
Object to hearsay.
Counsel?
This really ought to be considered under kind of a 104 rule of evidence here. We're not offering the admission of this to prove guilt, but whether or not there's a conflict of interest, the existence of other evidence besides the adult child in this case is relevant to whether or not she is a material witness. If we've got DNA proving or suggesting or proving otherwise, it's directly relevant to that. And under 104, the court can consider it.
All right. Ms. Nestor, anything further?
No, sir.
All right. Based off, so I will overrule the objection based off Rule 104, and as it relates only to this hearing today.
Understood.
Sorry, could you repeat
Is
the question?
is DNA consistent with the defendant's DNA found on the firearm that was found at the scene?
Yes, the DNA on the firearm was consistent with that of Mr. Robinson.
You said the etchings. There was etchings in that firearm, and that there's also etchings in rounds in the firearm. Is that what I understand?
Yes, I believe the chambered round and other rounds found at the time had etchings upon them.
And you said there are rounds with etchings also found on them in the defendant's apartment. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
That firearm, where was that found?
It was found in a wooded area just off of Campus Drive, wrapped in a black towel.
How critical are eyewitness statements of those present to the event to identifying the shooter?
They did not provide any information that allowed us to identify the shooter.
Okay, just remove the admission of statements.
No objection.
It's admitted. Thank you.
Okay, nothing else.
All
right. Counsel, I'll give you 6 minutes for redirect.
I'll talk fast, Your Honor.
All right.
And I'll run up to the front. Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Nestor. I represent Mr. Robinson, Agent Hall. You certainly seem familiar with a lot of the evidence here. Is it fair to say you're one of the key case agents in this matter?
That's correct.
All right. And as one of the case agents in this matter, certainly it's up to you to look at every piece of evidence that could be important in this case. Is that right?
That's correct.
And as a matter of fact, if I understood your testimony correctly, you said that you guys put posters up asking students, if you have videos, please give them to us. Is that right?
I believe that the posters were asking if anybody wanted to provide a statement to us, that they would be encouraged to do so.
So you encouraged all the kids that were there and other people to come forward and give you a statement, did you not?
I did not personally know.
Your posters did.
The posters did, correct.
Okay. And you also put out a request for videos, if anybody had videos to present them to you. Did you not?
We asked if anybody had any information that would help us with our investigation, if they'd be willing to provide it to us. That's correct.
And it doesn't sound like you screened it. You were so like, if you have it, bring it to us, right?
I'm not sure what the question is.
You didn't screen for, well, we'll take your evidence, but we're not interested in your evidence. You took any evidence that came at you, right?
I guess the answer would be yes, because I can't screen it until I have it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Is there anybody that came forward and you said, yeah, we're really not interested in talking to you at all? We're not even going to take your statement?
I believe there were people who were pre-screened who wanted to provide information that didn't have any substantiated connection to the investigation.
But somebody connected with this investigation, spoke to them and decided they didn't have any valuable information, correct?
Yeah, they documented their contact and then made that decision.
Okay. And the videos that you got, you understand that these videos have been used far and wide to look to see if there were potentially other shooters in the crowd. Have you seen this on social media? Thousands of them.
Again, I guess I don't know what the question is.
All right. Are you aware that the videos that have been taken from the scene have been analyzed by people on social media and in the press to see if there was somebody else that could have been involved in this? Are you
Yes,
aware of that?
I'm aware that everybody has a theory on the case.
Everybody has a theory on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't you think it would be fair to say that any video that was taken there that could one way or another address whether those theories are good or bad, or whether your theory is good or bad, you guys should at least take a look at them? Fair?
Yes.
All right. And you became aware that Mr. Grunander had a child that was present at the scene. Is that right?
That's correct.
And did you look at her videos?
I did, yes.
When did you look at her videos?
When I received them, when she was interviewed by Agent Mortensen.
So that would have been a couple weeks ago.
Correct.
All right. But when you were doing your investigation of this case initially, you never looked at her videos.
Yes.
Ms. Grunander did not come forward as a witness, no.
And the Utah County Attorney's Office knew that she had been there, right?
Sorry?
The Utah County Attorney's Office knew she had been there that day?
At the event?
Yes.
Correct.
And they knew she had videos?
I don't know if they knew she had videos or not, but they knew she'd been at the event.
But they sure weren't forwarded to you, were they?
Not until last week, no.
Okay. When this came out and there was a motion filed in court?
Correct.
All right. And have you ever interviewed Mr. Grunander's adult child?
As I said, Agent Mortensen did that interview. I did not.
And that was done when?
Either a week or 10 days ago.
Right. And so up until about 10 days ago, you all did not look at her videos, right?
No.
You did not interview her.
No.
And the county attorneys knew that she had been there, right?
Correct.
And they knew she had videos.
Correct.
And were you told by anyone not to interview her?
No, I was not.
Told by anyone to leave her alone?
I was not.
You said the SBI collected over 40 statements, is that right?
Correct.
And that's from people that were just in the audience?
The 40 that I mentioned is from people who were at the event, yes.
So people in the exact same situation that the prosecutor's daughter was in?
In terms of being at the event?
Yes.
Yes, people who were at the event.
And you thought they were worthy of taking statements from, right?
They came forward to give us statements, correct?
Because everybody's perspective is important.
If they're willing to share it, yes.
And as a matter of fact, you've gathered, as I understand it from today, I want to say around 300 terabytes of video information from the scene. Is that right?
I believe there's in the region of 248 terabytes of data from Utah Valley University alone.
And the adult child of Mr. Grunander is in the exact same position as everybody else who's given evidence in this case, isn't she?
In terms of being an attendee at the event?
right?
Yes, she was an attendee.
And having video
Yes.
and having witnessed things herself?
You would have to refer to her testimony as to what she witnessed.
Okay. And you mentioned and having video. I know I have 2 minutes. I'm going to talk very fast. I know she's about to kill me. You mentioned the DNA evidence. You're certainly not a DNA expert. Is that correct?
I'm not, no.
And are you aware that the DNA evidence that was seized from the scene consisted of a mixture of at least 5 different individuals?
I'm not a DNA expert, so.
So you know enough to say what helps him, but you're not going to answer whether or not there were 5 individuals mixed into that DNA.
I'm not aware of that, no.
Okay.
Wow.
And you're certainly not qualified to interpret complex DNA mixtures, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Court's indulgence for just 1 moment, Your Honor. Holy crap.
That's a bombshell.
6 minutes.
Ms. Nestor, is there, I know I gave you that 6 minutes. Is there any other questions that you feel you need to ask?
Thank you for asking, but I think I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the taking of evidence, this portion of the hearing. We'll turn to closing arguments or arguments by the parties as it relates to this. May this witness step down? Yes. As much as he'd like to sit there indefinitely. Go ahead and excuse him. All right, council, we have, just before we begin, I note that we have a hearing set on the break for February 24th at 10:30 on WebEx. Does that comport with the agreement of the parties?
On what day, Your Honor? I'm sorry.
February 24th at 10:30 in the morning on WebEx.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, and so it's the intent that the court will issue an oral ruling and a written ruling on that same day. And at that time, depending on how the court rules, we'll determine what we address next in regards to the motion regarding media in the courtroom. And so we'll take to that point. I do wish to state that this court's mind is not made up and that I would ask all parties to continue in their roles because the court has not issued a decision in regards to the disqualification of the Utah County Attorney's Office. So I would ask that all parties continue to move forward diligently as they have and have made a note of that. All right, so it's 4:37. My lawyer math, let's see. It looks like you would get 10 minutes each for your arguments and we will end at 5. And if you want to reserve time, you certainly can do so, but take that into account when you're making your argument. Mr. Novak.
Thank you.
Your Honor, there are legal issues and there are factual issues that we think that the court needs to look at very closely. I would ask the court, because I only have 10 minutes, to look at both the briefing in the original motion, and I will point out some specific cases that we think the court should pay attention to, as well as the briefing in the what I'm going to call the renewed request. And they're both informative. The briefing in the renewed request doesn't just go to the question of should this court encourage, that's the language that the statute hints at, the state attorney, the county attorney to refer this to the attorney general, but it also refers to when a trial court does or does not abuse its discretion with respect to the last witness. And I'm gonna just go with the principle of recency here. The last witness's primary purpose was to focus on this question of whether the adult child student at UVU is what the state has referred to as a material witness or a critical witness. And that is actually either intentionally or unintentionally a distraction from the real question here. This is not a question of whether in order to prove its case, the state needs to call as a witness a family member of the prosecution. Okay, that could, in another situation, be the source of a conflict. But the issue here is that the most experienced and most senior prosecutor in the office, other than the elected county attorney, Mr. Gray, should have been walled off from this prosecution until this court had an opportunity to consider whether disqualification is necessary. And it is important to note a couple things that Mr. Garnander said. One of them was that he'd never seen, in his experience, a decision to seek the death penalty made without regard to information about the accused. And there's a hint there that there was an emotional response to Mr. Kurt's death, which there's a strong implication creates an appearance of impropriety. And so this court doesn't have to make a finding that there's a conflict of interest, an actual conflict of interest. What the standard says, and that's the standard that Mr. Gray read into the record from the Organization of Utah Prosecutors that he's the president-elect of, which refers to the public perception of the integrity of the prosecutor's office and the public confidence in the handling of the case. Okay, so that was standard 1.3-3C. The failure of Mr. Gray to at least temporarily wall off Mr. Gronander, to seek guidance from any other prosecutor, ethics expert, the court, the state bar, people who are leaders or members of SWAP, the Attorney General's office, demonstrates both a very an inappropriately casual approach to this issue. And it also demonstrates that what Mr. Gray did is he put his need for Mr. Gronander to lead this case ahead of the ethical consideration of whether that might create an appearance of impropriety. Not an appearance in Mr. Gray's opinion, not an appearance in Mr. Gronander's opinion, but an appearance in the public eye. And that's actually your honor's project, if I may, is to determine what a reasonable member of the public would think of this scenario. The other thing that is important here is that we are dealing with a proceeding where the Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution and the parallel constitutional right in Utah require, and this court has heard it already, and the court's going to hear it over and over again, a heightened standard of reliability. This is not just a court proceeding, and it's not just a criminal proceeding. This is a capital proceeding, which is, at this point in time, sort of almost the only proceeding where the Eighth Amendment comes into play. And so this court needs to view the appearance of impropriety under this heightened standard of reliability. A couple of Utah cases that I think that this court, we would ask this court to look at very closely. State v. McClellan, Utah Supreme Court, 2009, Utah 50. State v. Cater, C-A-T-E-R, 2014. I'm sorry, yeah, that's a Court of Appeal decision. 2014, Utah Appeals 207. Mr. Gray should have implemented a firewall, and he didn't. And that has created this problem. And then what we see is isolating Mr. Gronander's daughter from the investigation, isolating her in some way so that she hasn't provided a statement, she hasn't provided videos until we bring this issue to the court's attention.
I just shared the clip from him saying about the DNA. It's up in the Jumbotron and on my profile, pinned to the profile. Please share it.
The decision as to what charges to file, the decision as to whether or not to seek the death penalty should never, ever have been made in consultation with Mr. Gronander, even if he's the most experienced homicide prosecutor in the office, even if he has one of the longest tenures, and even if it's Mr. Gray's ultimate decision. Because now we don't really know, and the court doesn't know, and the court just can't defer to the prosecution. That's the whole point of the court having the supervisory power over this issue. What influenced Mr. Gray? I would also point out that Mr. Gray did not disclose until asked, while under oath, that two members of his faith community were also present there. That was not disclosed to us when he found out about it. And that he has a relationship with the family of some young person who was also negatively impacted. This line of sight analysis, this PIE that has been diagrammed is not the question. That is not the question. The question is whether Mr. Gray should have isolated the prosecutor whose child was there, and I say this with all due concern, and that could have been injured in any number of ways. People could have been hurt leaving the scene. And I'm not saying that in any way to minimize the effect that experience had on Mr. Gronander and his family. I think, as I said in court last time, I've been through this where I learned that my child is somewhere where there was a shooting. And until I knew my child was safe, that was, an overwhelming emotional experience. So the problem is that Mr. Gray approached this in an incredibly casual way. There isn't a single memorandum, he testified to this, documenting the process of whether there's an actual conflict or an appearance of conflict. The mere disclosure of it to us and us bringing it to the court does not wash this clean. That is our concern. I also want to cite the court, because I'm running out of time, to a decision that is not a Utah decision, but it's cited on page 12 of our motion, which is Tate 925 Southwest 2nd 548, a Tennessee decision, where basically the court says where there were no screening procedures and the prosecutor, as to whom there was an appearance of impropriety, maintained the role of a supervisor, and there was open discussion of the case with him, there should have been a disqualification. And what the court did there is it disqualified the entire office. So this problem could have been avoided if Mr. Gronander had been screened off, if Mr. Gray had sought this court's guidance early. They were in court on September 16th. This could have been brought to the court's attention in September. Counsel were appointed shortly thereafter. We could have addressed this a long time ago. And now, frankly, it's too late. So we understand that there is pressure on the judicial system to move this case expeditiously. There is also a countervailing, and we believe, stronger need to make sure that there's a heightened standard of reliability, that there is no conflict, and that there is no appearance of conflict. And if that takes a little bit of time for another prosecution office to get up to speed, the investigation is going to continue, the discovery production is going to continue, the lab work is going to continue. None of that is going to change. So we would ask the court, and I'm not reserving any time in rebuttal, I'm going to ask the court to grant the motion, both parts of it, which is to make a finding that Mr. Grunander should have been walled off and that Mr. Gray's failure to do so, and sort of the casual way that Mr. Gray approached this whole thing requires, unfortunately, the disqualification of his office and the appointment of a new group of prosecutors to be responsible for this case. The case will continue. What we are asking the court to do today does not in any way change the fact that Mr. Robinson is charged. He's charged with an aggravated homicide. We all have to deal with that, but we have to deal with it in a way where there is no question that the decisions that have been made or decisions that will be made in the future, which is some questions that were brought up to Mr. Gray by his own counsel, and the public's confidence in the outcome of this case are tainted by what should have happened and did not happen. And I appreciate the court's time.
Thank you, Mr. Novak.
Is the
To
camera supposed to be
looks
showing
like
Tyler
Mr. Novak
Robinson?
took
It can be a wide shot like that.
13 minutes.
I'll pay you back later.
Thank you. To the state, I will afford you that same time frame. If you want to take all 13 less, I'll leave it to you.
I know everybody in here is going to blame me if they don't leave at 9, which is 5 o'clock. So the reality is, Your Honor, the adult child is not a witness here. She didn't see Charlie Kirk get shot. She didn't record him get shot. She didn't see his wound. She didn't see him get carried off. She's just not a witness. And as a result, there's really no conflict here. Now, I understand that conflicts go beyond just that, but most of the cases that we look at where there's some kind of conflict are where there's confidential knowledge that has been obtained by the prosecutor, right? A defense attorney becomes a prosecutor and now has confidential knowledge about that person, right? That's the typical conflict we see. Has some kind of proprietary or financial interest, right? That's the kind of conflict we usually see. Occasionally there are personal conflicts, but there's a lot of good case law that talks about what kind of conflicts constitute that personal interest. And I think the best case law on this is cited in our opposition to the renewed motion to refer the matter. And in that case, State v. Newman, the court found, this is a Missouri case, the court found no conflict of interest in prosecuting a defendant for murder, even though the prosecutor had done business with the victim, knew him personally, and served as a pallbearer at the victim's funeral. And again, in the Gwinnett County District Attorney, nor his Georgia office, had a conflict of interest, even though his chief investigator dated and later married the victim in a case that the office was prosecuting. In Kansas, prosecutor's office did not have a conflict, even though the defendant threatened to blow up the very courthouse and also housed the district attorney's office. I mean, these are cases where the prosecutor has a close relationship with the actual victim of the crime. Look, if Mr. Grunander were related to Charlie Kirk, we would acknowledge there's a conflict here, right? But we're not even close to that. The adult child is not even a witness in this case, is not a witness to the murder. Is the child a witness to the circumstances? Sure, but so are 3,000 others, as well as dozens of video recordings. She's not a witness. She's not necessary in this case. And as a result, there's no conflict here. Now, is he going to be motivated because she was present? Is he somehow going to be motivated to do something he otherwise would not? Well, again, maybe if she were injured, maybe so. Maybe there would be a good argument there. Maybe it still doesn't rise to the level of these cases that I've talked about. But that's just not the fact. She has not been traumatized. She has not had to seek therapy. She has not had to miss class. It's not affected her friendships. As a result, the idea that Mr. Grunander is going to be motivated by some kind of retribution for what happened to her is just flatly false. The idea that the defendant was charged for killing someone because a prosecutor's child was present when it happened is just, it's almost laughable. He's being prosecuted for killing someone because he killed someone. At least that's what the evidence will show, we believe. The idea that he has been, that the death penalty has been elected because a relation of a prosecutor was there is just laughable. It's because someone was shot and killed. That's why the charges were brought. I just don't think that proposition is palatable at all. The evidence is what this case was charged on, both at the charging level and at the death penalty level. None of this was motivated because of some relationship. And I think that anybody who looked at this would agree that you don't charge someone with murder because a witness was affected by it. You charge someone with murder because someone was killed, right?
With porn stars that were ugly, is it giant?
The standard. The defense has tried to elevate the standard here by looking at best practices, the SWAP's Statewide Association of Prosecutors best practice. Even so, I think it's been misstated. The standard says that when there's an appearance of conflict, the prosecutor should, I quote, consider recusal. Well, that's the question. They should consider it, right? It doesn't say it mandates recusal or disqualification. And that's not even the ethical standard that this court goes by. That's the best practice. And the best practice was followed in this case because once that fact was known, there was a discussion. Of course, it was disclosed immediately. It was disclosed 5 days after defense counsel was appointed. The idea that the child was isolated is just flatly false. She just was not a witness. And the follow-up with her showed as much. The standard is there a significant risk the representation of the state will be materially limited by a personal interest of the lawyer? In this case, the decision to prosecute and the prosecution of this case will not be limited in any way. Moreover, if anything, the interests would align. Regardless, the motivation here is clearly not because of the presence of this child, it's because Charlie Kirk was murdered in front of everybody. She's not a material witness. Everybody knows Charlie Kirk was shot and killed and murdered brutally. Everybody knows that. I don't think that's going to be what this case is about. It's going to be about identity. And neither the child nor any of the other 3,000 witnesses present really have a whole lot to say about who this was that did the shooting. And that's what this case hinges on. There's been no evidence that Prosecutor A's child had any effect on the prosecution of this case to date. And there's no reason to believe it will have any effect in the future. The testimony was clear that no one anticipated that based on her lack of value as a witness and the lack of trauma or injury to her. There really shouldn't be any question about that for this court, for the public, or anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all parties. I acknowledge the hard work and effort that went into today, and this court appreciates that. We will reconvene on February 24th at 10:30 in the morning via WebEx. And just for clarification, to defense, in regards to Mr. Robinson, how would you like Mr. Robinson to be present at that hearing?
Your Honor, Mr. Robinson, I believe it's a WebEx for everyone, right?
It is.
He can also be on WebEx, Your Honor. We would waive personal appearance for that.
All right, thank you. All right, with the new date set.
I'm sorry, sorry, audio only. Thank you for my co-counsel. Audio only, no screen.
I appreciate that clarification.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And with that, court is in recess.
Wow, that is such a bombshell. That is massive. So Candace Owens pointed out to me, I DM'd her about it. I remember this. She said that they found 5 prints on the gun back in the day. So now there's 5 prints and 5 samples of DNA. What is it? That's crazy. The DNA is massive. That's huge. That's huge. Wow.
Remember that preservation of evidence argument?
Yeah, about the DNA?
Preserving, the testing, don't destroy anything there. That's what was going on. 5.
That's crazy.
Wow. That Lori, I mean, she just, who was that? That was, we haven't heard from her yet, right? That was,
that's it. Well, no, that's the main chick. That's the main defense attorney. That's the one overseeing it all.
That was Kester? Or
she's the one that came from the Fed. Yeah, that's the main. I think that was the main chick.
I wasn't watching the video. I was just listening.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the main. It's one woman.
That's her.
Yeah, it's one woman and 2 men. 3 men now, I think. But
no, there's another woman. There's another Utah attorney.
Oh yeah. I can assist it. Yeah. But she's skinny.
I thought that was her that was ripping apart.
No, man. No, that's crazy. Wow, man.
The prosecution spent 15 minutes going through, saying video.
Yeah, and that's
blah,
another
blah,
thing.
blah, blah,
The
blah,
judge was not fair. They got 15 minutes with that agent, and then they got 6 minutes to respond. That was messed up.
But she cleared him literally in one second.
She did. Yeah, that blew up in their faces. That's huge.
And the same guy wouldn't call it a bullet. He kept calling it a projectile.
Yeah. And well, this is one thing. She pointed out how unfair he was. Right? He was a DNA expert enough to talk about how the profile matched Tyler Robinson, but he wasn't a DNA expert enough to include the fact that there was 5 other people's mixed DNAs in there, right? He admitted that. So that's a bias. That shows you that at the investigative level, he's a lead state investigator. He is biased. He is not being honest. Dude,
he's holding back evidence. I mean, they just now released a video from 10 days ago, and they didn't even allow her to take a deposition. I mean, come on now. This is already rigged.
Yeah, they didn't take the prosecutions. She was standing next to what's his name? The guy who asked the question, and they didn't ask for her witness testimony or her video. Crazy, dude.
Yeah. Don't do that. I mean, that's like they know not to ask. They just, it's the tone of the office, and that's how conflicts work. Sometimes you can't see it, but it's there, and it.
Well, how much time have they had to edit this video? I mean, they've had it since September 10th, and it's February. They've had all kinds of time to do all kinds of things to that with the metadata and everything.
You're saying they doctored it?
I don't know if they have, but there's the potential of it. I mean, with the technology, with AI and stuff, there's so much you can do.
And that's possible. I'm assured that any video evidence will
Slick Dog, let me ask you a question. Why did they wait? If it wasn't an important witness, because that's what they were trying to say. Then why did they wait? And they went and ended up interviewing her anyway, the 21st of January.
I need you guys to take some of the space so I can let my dogs out.
They wanted her to be they wanted to make sure that this prosecutor was the prosecutor. So if you put off the fact that, oh, my daughter was, right next to this person, then it allows him to be involved in the case right from the beginning. And they have him removed for conflict of interest is going to take time. That's my perception of it.
Well, I agree, but to put a finer point on it, the father lawyer, he seemed to have his act together. Like, I find it difficult to believe that he didn't realize it was a problem, but
he knew it was a problem. Right? It was very intentional. Why would you hide that?
Yeah, and he disclosed it. That's good.
When though? How far down the road though?
A few weeks later, and I think that was because defense counsel hadn't been appointed yet. That's what they said. It doesn't matter. I mean, they didn't need that lawyer on the case. The immediate thing.
And disclosure doesn't mean that there's not a conflict.
It's an initial. Here's how it goes. You disclose it. Sit down with the attorney. Say, Bob, I love you. I want you on this case. I need you on the case. But right now, you need to sit out. We're gonna try and figure out, what kind of role you can have, or you may not have a role. But we're gonna try and figure something out. And then, that chief prosecutor is a train wreck. I mean, it's.
Are you talking about Jim Gray?
Yeah, he has totally screwed this case up with the premature announcement of seeking the death penalty and not giving any consideration on how to manage a conflict. I mean, one of the first things you do is you go to the bars, the Utah bar, and get their input from the ethics committee. That's what they're there for. They didn't do any of that. There's another, in comparison, so the conflicts of interest management of that is a train wreck on the state. But in terms of pretrial police and cameras in the courtroom and all that, the defense has renewed its request to not have cameras in the courtroom and electronic media and all that. They make a strong case. Okay? If you read it, you'd be left with you'd see what they were coming from. But the state absolutely destroyed them in their reply. I mean, it was solid. And as a matter of fact, the Utah State's Attorney's Office was already complying with, remember the gag order? They were complying with it before it existed on like day 2, and they documented it. So there's a piece of that office that has their act together, which is interesting. It's probably the part of the office that Jeff Gray has nothing to do with. What do other people think?
I'm letting my dogs out. I need you guys to talk.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Slick Dog, too, when Jim Gray was on the stand the very first time, this is what I found interesting. He said he couldn't remember if he drove or not, but Grenander knew right away. I drove. I met him 15 minutes later. He drove the car to there and everything, and I found that very odd that someone didn't remember if they drove or not. But
yeah,
do you guys know Grunender's first name? Does anyone know?
I thought he said David, but I could be wrong.
I think I went to college with this person.
The question I was going to ask you, Slick Dog, is it normal for lawyers that many of them to be on scene that early on?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, no, that's yeah. I mean, all right. So the father's there getting his daughters.
It is weird that the prosecuting team would go down there like while it's an active crime scene.
Yeah. So let me break it down. The father going to the campus to get his daughter's backpack. I kind of get it, right? But the rest, nah. That's you know, and I know they and the motions. I don't remember if they testified to it that they would have an investigator with them, accompany them. But it was weird, especially when they went back and were taking all these measurements in December to prove that the daughter wasn't, a material witness. But and I forget who said it before. I mean, you don't know. I mean, he still hasn't been arraigned yet, right? He hasn't entered the police yet. So it's hard to tell where things are going to go. What do people think of the judge?
If you have your hand up and you're waiting to speak, please go, because I can't.
I don't think anybody has their hand up, but
Big Deb did.
Okay.
Hey, Dill. Just a quick question, and maybe this is in line with the question you just asked, Slick, regarding the judge. Have any parties, either the judge, the prosecution, or the defense, made any mention of, or perhaps even within the whatever is the official name of like the total list of evidence, has the university campus footage been mentioned among any of the pieces of evidence?
They just mentioned it all, all the whole time today. Said they had almost 300 terabytes, 248 terabytes. That's a massive amount of data.
That's to put a finer point on that breaks it down. There is an exhibit, one of like 8 different exhibits to the state's motion opposing defense's request to ban media and cameras in the courtroom. And in there is a breakdown of the evidence. I will look for it. If you want, send me a DM. And
Sounds good. Yeah, I was kind of trying to track. I do recall you compiling the Dropbox folder initially, and I've just been really curious as to why. I only caught the last 30 minutes of the hearing today, but I was curious why there wasn't much mention regarding the actual university camera footage as opposed to like the witness cell phone footage. Very curious about that and what that might show, because you would think, based on just any university campus and how many cameras they have, that would definitively place Tyler Robinson on the roof as opposed to the limited footage that we've seen thus far.
Yeah, and that's because all the evidence that was submitted in this hearing was all geared towards demonstrating that the daughter was a completely worthless, unnecessary witness, which is kind of ridiculous that they had to go to all that extent to prove the negative. So I'm sure we'll see more of that, but I think there is at least some data, like how much video comes from UVU and other other sources, and there's also some correspondence that they sent directly to Erica Kirk, telling her about the gag order, as they're required to do, and to counsel at TPUSA. There's nuggets that they think.
Now, is this evidence supposed to be made available to the public?
So it has to oscillate. In other words, the ellipse has to oscillate kind of at the same rate that the Earth oscillates in order for this to be effective, which makes it a very complex orbit. Is that what you were saying? And by the way, you broke up.
Yeah, sorry, I just realized I just walked out of range, so I didn't hear your summary of what I just said.
It's not enough to just be in a stable elliptic orbit. It has to be in a precessional elliptic orbit.
Well, it's going to precess too, but the more important thing is that the period of the orbit has to be such that, I guess in fact that's right. It does. It has to be like 1 or 2 days or 3 days, so that every time it gets to apogee, which is in the same spot essentially, Russia's in that spot too. So it has to be a 1 day orbit.
Because these orbits are going to be, I guess they could be anything. But I would think an orbit would be several times a day. You're suggesting that these highly elliptical orbits probably can't. Well, there's certain things they can't be, right? Like they can't be a 90-minute orbit because a 90-minute orbit is about as fast as an orbit can be, right?
90 minutes is as fast as an orbit can be. So, but I'm just trying to think.
It has to be. We call it a spherical orbit or a circular orbit.
Well, but so let me just make sure I understand. You were saying that you'd want it to be at apogee when it's over the important place so that it would spend a lot of time there?
Yeah,
that's right. Now, I mean, the downside of that, of course, is that you're also a long ways away, so you're not going to get as good of pictures. It depends on what you're looking at. But the point is that, you could do it in such a way, right. I think I'm right that it would have to be an orbit that has a period of 1 day or 2 days or 3 days or 4 days. And presumably they'd make it 1 day because that would be an orbit that doesn't have as high an apogee. Yeah.
And they could time it right so that it's over the country in the middle of the day, and then at night it slips around behind and it's useless.
Oh, well, of course, a time of day is another thing, and there's all sorts of crazy. There, you then care about what the precession of the orbit is over the course. If you want it to be during the day, which presumably they would, I don't know, it depends on what you want, then you need to have the orbit kind of precess during the year so that its apogee changes, and that would mean that the period would have to be either less than or greater than a day. You want it always to be over Russia, and so fundamentally you'd like it to be kind of 1 orbit a day so that every time it comes back around to that same place, Russia's in the same place. That would be a 1 day orbit. But if you want it always to be during daytime, then you've got to also count on the pear-shaped or the oblate spheroid nature of the Earth to make the orbit precess at just the rate that you would want, so that not only is it always over Russia, but it's always over Russia during the day. When they do this, there are orbits that are always along the terminator, right? They're orbits that go around the Earth, always essentially. The terminator is the dividing line between day and night, so that you get these orbits from the sun. The satellite is always orbiting around the Earth, just around the Earth as seen from the sun.
So I accept that an orbit like this can be useful. What is? Why did I say Russia? No, why do you say Russia does this more? Or the Soviet Union?
We could check that out. I think it's just the case that Russia does more weird patterns.
Oh, so you're saying over Russia or over the U.S.? Are these things in the U.S.? Well, you could do it from either way. I mean,
You can do it for any purpose, right? But Russia's launch sites are more northern, so they don't have a lot of options. I'm getting a bad feeling about laser goals. I think we'll try that one again. If somebody wants to bring them up a second time, they can.
I've got some science just to share quickly, and I'm going off to jujitsu, boys.
No.
Very quick.
Don't share and leave. No. No, thank you.
You'd rather have him leave and share?
I'd rather have him stay in the conversation. Like, what's the point? It's like,
Benjamin, that's so nice of you.
yeah, I want him to stick around. I think it's weird when people say, "Hey, I want to just use some of your time," and then I'll listen to the response. And
I think we lost him. Oh, man, somebody booted him.
I did not.
I think maybe I can't invite him.
Russia there's something about where Russia launches from, Kazakhstan, I think. That limits the kinds of orbits they can access, and the space station and the shuttle was designed to do the kind of flights it does because of the kind of orbits that were accessible from Russia. Right? There's a story. I don't remember the details.
Right. That's the fun story. Is that the space station has to be accessible from the Kazakhstan. Launch site as well as Cape Canaveral, and the Kazakhstan. And you'd like the space station kind of just because it's simpler to launch things made eastward. You'd like to put it kind of at the inclination of Kazakhstan. But from Kazakhstan, you have to launch rockets northward, or else they fly over China. So the International Space Station is in the orbit that it's in, so that launches from Russia don't overfly China. That's why it's in that orbit.
any idea if Baikonur Cosmodrome, they had one of their pads damaged by a launch in the last 2-3 months, and it was going to require repair? Anyone know what the status of that is?
Yeah, I heard about
Give me
that.
status update.
I missed the first part of that.
Baikonur had an accident that put it out of commission. I think leaving SpaceX the only way to get to and from the space station. And I think that was right. And I don't know if that's changed or not. By the way, I mentioned to some of you, I saw the Dragon capsule come back from the space. The one that they had to bring the people back because somebody needed to see a doctor. They brought him back a week or two ago. And that's entered the atmosphere right over my head, and it was fucking unbelievable.
Hey, John, I thought you were going to say the thing about what you saw on the freeway.
Did you happen to film it? Did you have your phone ready? I did. Oh, damn. I want to give you a place to put it. The problem is, so the product on Google Drive, and I'll put away that someone can. Anyway, okay. I will do that. Interestingly enough, though, I didn't realize, I thought it was going to be a little bit out to the west of me, so I didn't have my camera pointing straight enough up, and as a result, you just see a little streak across the corner, and then I grab my phone at some point and try to get it, and you just see, as I'm whipping the phone around, you see the track as it's disappearing behind the eave of the house. It's kind of a dramatic, if not very beautiful video. But I put it on Facebook. Yeah, that should be on a bunch of Ring cameras if it's that. Yeah, it should. That's right. It was amazing.
I have a little update here. The Molnia. Oh, I can't even say it. Molnia orbit is this highly egg-shaped orbit, and it's 12 hours, which definitely fits in with what John said without fitting in, right? It's an integer number of days, specifically a half, because that's an integer number of days, but it works. And it is for communication. It's actually a rational. I know, I'm having fun here. it uses these as its geostationary solution because geostationary is a white privilege. It only works for people who have access to the equator. If you're very white, you don't get white privilege. And they can't see the equatorial satellites from Russia. Well, basically what happens is any building, any mountain, any bridge, anything gets in the way of their view of the equatorial orbit. So they don't use geostationary satellites for communication in Russia. Instead, they have this very high elliptical called the
Look at the momentum.
And it's a 12-hour orbit, and it's very high up over Russia, and then it's very low in the southern hemisphere. And because it's lower in the southern hemisphere, it goes faster. So it spends less time in the southern hemisphere, and then it comes to and spends 8 hours of 12s. What 8 hours of 12 is like 2/3, I think. So 2/3 of the time it's visible over Russia. Now, if it was a regular circular orbit, it would be closer to 50-50. There's a mountain called the Tundra, which is a 24-hour period.
All right, this is killing me. Marshall has something to say.
Yeah,
Marshall, what's up?
John, two things. On the question, one is piece of information. Because we don't award things in this administration to people by merit, we award them by who they know. Guess how much the NASA administratorship costs? Take it.
How much you have to give to get the administratorship?
Yep.
Probably not $1 billion, but maybe 200 or 300 million.
$2.7 million.
Only that much? That's so cheap.
I know.
can afford that.
So the second piece of this is actually a question. And the question is, little brother works on the Commerce Committee and helps NASA in like airplane. So he's looked space for as he's been alive. And in the BBB, they made sure the Artemis measure to go back to the moon to show that we could launch was funded. I was curious, what stuff can I pass on to him that needs to be looked at? Right? When I talk to my little brother next, what can I say? Hey, Duncan, I've been talking to this really cool scientist named John. He's got this recommendation for space. Like, what would that recommendation be? So I can pass it along.
I wasn't sure I understood it. What was the setup? I didn't catch the whole thing.
I have a little brother who works on Capitol Hill, and he works on the Commerce Committee. The Commerce Committee oversees airplanes and space, basically. And so in his work, he made sure Artemis, the mission to the moon, got fully funded. Noting that, and the administratorship was bought, but he has oversight. When the next time I talked to him, I said, hey, Duncan, I've been talking to this really cool scientist named John. He has these couple of recommendations for where we could put some money. What do you think we need to research at NASA more? Right? That's basically the question. If you could wave your magic wand for funding, what funding would you get for what projects?
Yeah, I don't know what projects in particular, but I will say I think this whole Artemis launch thing seems to me to be kind of crazy. I don't get. We've got this incredible new system that we've tested once, and we're going to put people on its second flight and send them around the moon. That strikes me as crazy.
Did it get scrubbed? I was predicting it would.
The leg rest rehearsal proved that there was an issue, so the launch is.
Once the launch.
It's always
those are my tits.
Yeah, and I knew, the thing is, and this is what I was saying last week, was it just doesn't seem. I'm willing to be surprised if this Artemis 2 or if the banned version launches this year. I'm going to be surprised if it launches this year. And watch what the flat earthers do with that when NASA, backs out of, flight that they, to their credit, at least they haven't been publicizing it. Nobody knows it's supposed to happen. So that's maybe a good thing.
Anyway, it's just unbelievable. So my recommendation, I mean, has been what I always say. There's no point in putting people in space. We should be sending robots into space.
I've been listening for a long time. I know that kind of I know science and space stuff is a little bit your specialty, so.
By the way, I just came out in the front of my house. I meant to take pictures of the sun earlier, but fortunately I caught it before it slipped down. The sunspots on the sun right now are fucking incredible. I'll put my PTR up with them in a moment.
My tits. Check out my AI tits.
Is it Boris the spider?
No ideas?
I don't remember what it's called. We all recognized it, right?
Igor's gonna play Igor, see if he can name it.
I don't know.
Igor, if you can't name that song, you're gonna lose your entire Russian credentials. Your Russian card is gone.
I have to say, Benjamin, whatever you did, oops, sorry. Whatever you're doing to pipe the sound in that's a huge improvement to anything I've ever heard you do before.
Yeah.
It's definitely gotten better in recent weeks.
It's a weird accidental mistake when my phone does this weird thing. Where the mic is on the phone, but the sound is in my ears.
You guys mislabeled Igor. He's not Russian, Benjamin. Yeah, we got it.
Transylvanian?
In Cyrillic.
Igor.
John, you get a second chance. Still nothing?
I got nothing. Royvis, help me out here.
Royvis, what you got? Royvis knows this shit. Cold!
It sounded well played. Whatever it was, I really feel like I should have been able to recognize it if I heard it.
Hey, John, I got a question about the three-body problem. Did they ever solve the problem?
No, it'll never be solved. It can't be solved in the sense that people wanted it to be solved. That's been proven. We can solve it to whatever accuracy you like, given enough time. But there's no analytical solution, and there never will be. So what that means is that.
I mean, is that a way of saying that there's no simple analytical solution?
Muchacho!
Well, there are in special cases. There are for very special initial situations. There are exact solutions.
You mean if these things have a relationship?
Well, yeah. So, for instance, you could put three
identical masses into orbit around their common center of mass, where they're always at the corners of an equilateral triangle. That's an exact solution of the three-body problem. But, you have to make them move at exactly the right speed, start them in exactly the right place.
So the name of that song was Moscow Nights. You've never heard Moscow Nights?
Oh, I've never heard of it, and I don't think I've ever heard it, because it sounded to me like you played it well enough for me to recognize it if I had.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I recommend it.
What's the other one called, though?
Not black. Dark. Dark Eyes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah, look up Django playing Dark Eyes.
I got one for you guys. During World War II, the Russians, after they captured German prisoners in the East, because of the Nazis' just brutal, essentially like summary killing of thousands of civilians, including Jews and gypsies and subversives, as they quote called it. The Russians fed them this soup that had an oil base and water in it, and the consequence of eating the soup was that you crapped yourself. And they fed it to the entire German army and marched them back to Russia. And so the Nazis suffered the equivalent of dysentery all the way back to the POW camp as a punishment.
This sounds like a version of the funniest joke in the world.
I don't know how you make it funny because it's World War II and the Nazis, and that stuff is really not very funny.
Have you ever heard the Monty Python routine on the funniest joke in the world?
When I was a kid, but I haven't watched Monty Python in a very long time.
Well, you should look it up. Look up funniest joke in the world, Monty Python. It's great. It's a great skit. And it involves the German army, so you'll like that.
I think they're ready for you back in the other. Why don't you guys merge the rooms back together? Sorry, Marshall. I think they're ready for you, Benjamin, back in the other room.
Are they ready for
I think they're ready for you. Yeah, they want you back.
Why did they come here? If we go there,
they want you back hard.
Joanna will be excluded.
No. They said you can't do that to her. But yeah, she's fine. She's you just can't boot her out of the room. It's fine. Just don't do that.
You don't understand. Okay. Why would they be ready? Aren't they happy?
They want you back, Benjamin. I can tell.
They want you back. I don't go where I want. I only go where I'm needed.
John, for that orbit, why do triangles matter? What is it about triangles that helps predict that three-body problem? I'm not.
Well, they're stable. They have a stable relationship. Right? They're all not affecting each other, so they all have a perfectly circular orbit. It's kind of like a fidget spinner. They're just all
So if you just look at any one of the three bodies, it's acted on by two identical forces along the legs of the triangle, which add up to a force toward the center of the triangle, the geometric center of the triangle. And all three of them have exactly the same force, exactly toward the center, just as if there was a big, massive object there. So it's as if they were all, had a force exerted on them by a massive object right at the center of the triangle, and they're just in orbit around it. But they're not. They're providing, through their mutual gravity, they're providing that force. But it has, if you don't start them with exactly the same velocity, exactly along the circle, then they will quickly no longer be in an equilateral triangle formation, and then all hell breaks loose. If you set up a simulation of this, if you do a numerical simulation of this, it'll run like that for a while, but inevitably, just due to numerical round-off error, the thing will fall apart.
So I watched this one Nova documentary because I'm a huge fan of PBS. And it was about a missing planet that you couldn't see on his.
Hello? Hello?
You know, same thing I feel today. Again, it's not that I'm a, it's not that I'm excusing the behavior of.
Wait. I don't know if we want to go back. I'm just saying, I'm just talking about load dumping. You gotta stop dumping your load. The people don't like when you dump your load on them.
That's what she said.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's like a Cleveland scene every day with these people.
And I just want to know, how did I get in it?
You was the one who. Actually, I shouldn't put your head like that. I shouldn't put your head like that. It wasn't your fault. When I showed you the shit that he said, and Chandra will tell you, y'all think, if you think I'm a good Lord, I sent Chandra some of the shit.
Hey, so I think we're supposed to debate will last about what? 2 minutes before you guys find out that there's nothing to debate about. Y'all just agree.
So contrary to maybe popular belief, I don't like the way the Trump administration goes about things. I agree with some of the things in principle. Like, I agree that you need to have a secure border in principle. I don't believe that you should be going door to door and forcing out undocumented folks that have committed no wrong after you spent decades, mainly by Republican industry, inviting them in to this country so you could profit off the labor. So turning around and then forcing them out, because you don't, because the political ramifications have changed, and not going after the criminality as you said that you were going after people that are that have come over here, some of them not by their own free will and volition, I think is wrong. So I think we can have a nuanced conversation where we don't always have to be so far on one side without.
So Trent, you gotta acknowledge the fact that during the campaign, where a lot of us said this is exactly what he wanted to do, you disagreed.
Well, I didn't.
Bruh, you definitely did. You were so for Trump and the.
I think you have me confused.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
I was never for Trump. When I told you this was a fucking problem. The border was a problem, and I season why Biden will lose, or not Biden and Kamala. If there's a reason why they'll lose, it is because this border had become a disaster to even the point where I couldn't